Hi, I'm Alexis Pedrick.
And I'm Lisa Berry-Drago. And this is Distillations, a podcast that explores the hilarious, strange, and serious stories at the intersection of science, culture, and history, all powered by the Science History Institute. We're super excited to announce the arrival of our new season coming August 4th.
When we bid you farewell at the beginning of February, our team imagined our spring and summer hiatus very differently. We pictured hunkering down in our HQ in Philly, researching, reporting, recording interviews.
Busting into each other's offices to argue about storylines, sitting for days in a cramped windowless recording studio, sharing pizza after pizza while we recorded our 2020 podcast season.
Of course, none of that happened, because 2020. But we have still managed to produce our season, separately yet together, thanks to Zoom. And we're polishing all the episodes and wrapping them up in a bow for you right now.
This season, we're exploring science at the margins. We'll look at disability in science, from how we define disability to begin with, to how the label affects scientists with disabilities today. We'll look through the eyes of scientific outsiders and up towards the skies to face science's leftovers.
The journey begins in an unexpected place with a surprising character, Peter the Great, Tsar of Russia.
Peter goes back to Russia and he issues a royal decree ordering midwives and priests and everyone, you are now forbidden from burying or killing the infants born as monsters. Instead, send their bodies to Moscow, to the apothecary, and they would be then preserved and kept in Peter's private museum.
We'll explore the little-known origins of occupational medicine, a whole branch of healthcare devoted to treating the harm that results from labor.
In 1968, at the height of the war in Vietnam, 14,000 Americans were killed. That same year, another 14,000 Americans were killed. But those lives were lost right here in the United States because those American men and women were killed at work, on the job. Another 2.5 million American workers suffered disabling injuries. That's 54 times the number of people we had wounded in Vietnam that year.
We'll learn how disability factored into the founding of the United States and how it determined who was allowed to come here in the first place.
Disability was a marker that was used to keep some Europeans from traveling to North America because it was assumed they would have nothing to contribute. So those who arrived were presumed to be able to work and defined as able-bodied, even though the work that they did once they got here was often very physically disabling.
We'll take a deep dive into the lived experiences of blind scientists to understand how they've made their way in a field that doesn't exactly roll out the red carpet for them.
The gentleman doing the interview took one look up and down and said, "You've got to be kidding." And he said to me, "What's that for?" And I told him, I said, "This is my telescope. I use it to look at signs and whatnot." And he said, "You can't see either."
And we'll hear the story of a scientist with multiple learning disabilities who battles feelings of inferiority every day.
I still deal with imposter syndrome. When I was in grad school, I was dealing with that even more. And I thought that, I tricked the admissions committee to accepting me. I tricked my PI, the boss of my lab. I tricked her into allowing me to even join her lab. I tricked the other grad students and other people in the lab that I even deserved to be there.
We'll look at the leftovers of science, aka space junk, the debris left behind from satellites and launches, and what it tells us about our values back here on Earth.
You can own something in space moving through space, or something on a planet, but you cannot own the planet itself, you cannot own the moon, you cannot own outer space. But outer space is ultimately being controlled and owned by only a few wealthy industrialized nations to the detriment of other nations.
Through all these stories, we'll investigate who gets to participate in science, and who and what gets left behind.
And what do we all lose when we leave certain people out?
Tune in to the first episode on August 4th.